Our task wasn't to try and split China and Russia up. Our task was to manage the union, to make sure that when they come down at the table, there's a seat over there that says the United States, and that we're invited to sit down and work with them on how we're going to do this thing called global economics.
President Xi, smart, top of his game. President Putin, smart, very smart people, standing there talking about the world order for the next 100 years. That's one of the saddest things you can imagine, one of the saddest.
But we don't play the economic game. We play the bully game. See, economics is business. Business is when I sit down with you and we sit down, we come up with a contract, we say what our joint objectives are, how we're going to work together, share profits, and it's all agreed in advance. So we move forward. As problems come up, we hold meetings and we fix these problems. That's not how America works. America sits down at the table and says, you will do what we want to do or we'll sanction you. And what we saw the last 3 days was China saying, we don't play the sanction game anymore. We don't care. You don't matter. Literally, China just said, you don't matter. The only person that matters anymore is Russia. And we are with Russia against you because you have defined yourself as our enemy. We did not define you as our enemy. You defined yourself as our enemy. This is a choice that America made. America is the only person to blame here. There's a lot of people out there saying, well, if Russia hadn't done this or if China hadn't done that. No, I'm sorry. It's all America's fault. And the thing is, we don't even realize it yet. Listen to Tony Blinken. I mean, this could be, under any other circumstance, he could be auditioning for a Monty Python skit because he is so far removed from reality when he speaks about China and the world. The same thing with John Kirby. I've never seen a man so lost in the space. He doesn't know what to say. We still have people that say, oh, China went to the Middle East and Saudi Arabia and Iran. Isn't that cute? No, guys, what they did is they just wiped you off the Middle East playing board. I mean, we may have, the Fifth Fleet still in Bahrain, but it isn't there to secure Saudi Arabia anymore. That mission is gone. Saudi Arabia doesn't care. Saudi Arabia's picked the other team. They used to have Team America on their shirt. That shirt's gone. They got Team China on their shirt right now. That's the direction they're heading.
Oh, let me make us a little bit bigger there. Bad week for America, ladies and gentlemen, on the world stage. And
I couldn't see or hear it.
You could. People in the chat aren't complaining, so I think they could hear it just fine.
It's just me. And the whole time it told me in the bottom right, you're in the show. Everyone can see and hear you. It didn't tell me.
Which is not true.
Okay.
When the clip plays, when the clip plays, we're off the air, so you're fine.
Okay, well, I couldn't see or hear it. So
yeah, I apologize. There must be something going on with StreamYard there. But yeah, let me know in the chat if you guys didn't hear that. But I think you guys probably did.
Yeah, Dwayne Gritter commented, "We're screwed," and then Dawn said, "Yes, we are." So yeah.
Okay, good.
Everything came through loud and clear. Jay Michelle.
Well, you'll have to hear the clip yourself after the show is over or something. It was a boffo clip of Scott Ritter just grinding into all the idiocy that our country's been doing over the past few weeks, and boy, it just doesn't stop. I guess we'll find out tomorrow if Deutsche Bank still exists. Otherwise, it's been a little bit of a financial crisis since the last time we had our web meeting. Our live stream. I saw a really amazing commentary from a guy who was not on my radar before, and people sometimes ask me what I like to listen to for news and commentary and things like that. But this is a guy I hadn't heard of before, though apparently he is an old Ron Pauler. So if you haven't never heard of this guy, folks, check this out. This is Tom Longo. He was on the Duran the other day, and he wrote this fascinating bit about what exactly just happened with that financial crisis with Credit Suisse and all the rest. And he's talking about what the Federal Reserve was up to, and people like myself think, oh yeah, it's just another bank bailout, just another screwing of the taxpayers. But he makes a really interesting point that what this really was screwing over Europe, and that financially the bank that's taking the hugest hit is going to be the European Central Bank. So if you want to check that out, let me reshare this so you guys can see the link in the address bar. But the guy's website is called Gold, Goats, and Guns, because those are things that he likes. So you can look him up. Tom.
He likes goats.
Tom, he raises goats. So Tom Longo is.
I wonder if he does goat yoga.
I don't know. He doesn't seem like a yoga guy to me.
Yeah, you never know.
But yeah, it might be. Here's the, okay, now you can see it in the address bar at the top there. Tom Longo, LUONGO.me, I guess is his web address. And that takes you to Gold, Goats, and Guns. There you go. So really interesting stuff there. Check that out, guys. We'll see. But certainly if the pattern continues and the next thing is Deutsche Bank imploding, then, I mean, there does seem to be a pattern here. But what an amazing thing that the Swiss banking system, the thing that everyone used to think was like the most stable, secure banking system on the planet, is now in absolute shambles. It's completely nuts. And meanwhile, you've got peace breaking out in the Middle East, brokered by China and Russia. And we're just scratching our heads going, we're going to sanction everybody. We're going to sanction the whole planet. And this is going to totally work.
Well, we've got priorities, you know, other stuff. Trans agenda, whatever.
Yeah. It's amazing. We got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight, folks.
Yep.
Thank God we have
There's
a 2-week
Hey,
recess.
Paula. Yep. Well, Barry Gordy says goat cheese. Yes. Love it. Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Dwayne's in Canada. Look, good evening from Canada, eh?
Yeah.
Hi, Emma.
So, yeah, 2-week recess in Lansing, so they can't do anything. It turns out, by the way, folks, I was wrong about the Democrats not having missing members this week. They had it the week before, but not last week. Not too much bad stuff happened this past week, except, of course, the lock up your safety passed in the House, which had already passed in the Senate. No movement on red flag legislation, but we will take a look at the lock up your safety law, because I think people are, it's not quite a law just yet, but it's soon going to be. So we can talk about what that means, because I think there is some confusion about what exactly that bill does. We've made the point in our emails. It essentially reaches into your home and makes you a criminal if you don't properly store your guns, but the circumstances of that are actually kind of limited. So gun owners should probably be okay. Nonetheless, it is rhetorical ammunition for talking about all the things that these Democrats are doing. And of course, it's only one small thing in a big piece. Mark says, have anything to sign or send out on right to work since Whitmer repealed it 2 days ago? Well, we'll talk about that, Mark. The main thing now is just going after the lawmakers who did it. Right to work was an overwhelmingly popular law. The Democrats made it an absolute core thing that they were going to do as soon as they took office. Although there's a lot of other things that have also made their core that they want to do as soon as they take office. The thing to do is to make an issue out of it.
And they're doing it all.
To go talk to neighbors and tell them what they're actually up to. And to help you guys do that, we have released our 100-day legislative scorecard, because by the time the legislature comes back into session, it will have been 100 days, because they're going to be out of session for 2 weeks. They're taking their vacation till Easter. And by that, there's not going to be anything more to add to this, but we are going to continue to update this, and we are continuing to build more and more grassroots leadership tools at rescuemichigan.com. The next thing that you guys are going to get is a tool for all of you to make your own scorecards if you wish. You can use ours, of course. We have no problem with that. But if you want to make your own, you can do that as well. Maybe you don't like that we didn't score the vote on the Democrat election for speaker or anything else. And you can score not just any roll call vote, but you can also score any bill that lawmakers sponsored or co-sponsored. In this case, in our scorecard, we didn't use any of those. And I'll tell you, you might find, once you have the ability to make your own scorecards, that it's really a less is more kind of thing. If we were to have scored every single vote they would take, what it would end up doing is mostly just giving the rhinos cover, because the Democrats voted wrong on everything with almost no exceptions whatsoever. And the more partisan votes you throw in there, the more all you're really doing is giving the Republicans a greater contrast, which maybe you want to do. I don't know. But I personally like to highlight those who, on one hand, some of them voted right 100% of the time. And, you know, I have a saying, if you don't have anything nasty to say about a politician, don't say anything. But I should say the ones who made it this far without having made any bad votes is pretty dang impressive and praiseworthy. And we've got several to highlight here. We got Thomas Albert, Roger Houck, amazingly. Roger Houck was not so pure when he was in the House, but I don't know. Maybe that. Well, you know what? Since Roger Houck scored 100%, I'm not going to make fun of his hair anymore. At least not tonight. He has this kind of this dead animal growing on it there. You see.
Oh my gosh. So you just made fun of it.
All right. I'm sorry, Roger. But anyway, maybe it made him wise because he voted 100%. So good for him. Michelle Hoyninga, 100%. Jonathan Lindsay, Rick Outman, Jim Runstead, and Lana Tice, all 100% in the state Senate. In the state House, not so many considering their numbers, although I think for a lot of them, you see a lot of 90%. I think a lot of freshmen dropped the ball on that earned income tax credit. It was maybe a rookie mistake or something. But there you go. But some of them held strong. We have Steve Carra, unsurprisingly. Andrew Fink, who I wish they had made their leader, but they didn't. Joseph Fox, Neil Frisky, Jamie Green over in Lapeer area there. Sarah Leitner, although she missed a few votes. We didn't score against them if they missed votes because sometimes that happens. Although one guy, by the way, if you wondering what's the story with this one, William Bruck, he has actually missed almost every single vote in the entire term. He is, I guess he's active duty military. And I don't know how that actually works. I mean, I know if you become elected to Congress, they're like, okay, go be a congressman and get us our money. I don't know why they have not allowed him to return to be a state lawmaker or what the story is with that, but he has not cast a vote since I think the first day. I think he was there to vote for the speaker and that was it. So that NAN, that 9% is for not a number because it can't divide by zero. He has missed every single vote the entire year. At some point that's going to get tiresome. I hope he comes back to be an office holder someday. And then we have, who else do we have here? We've got Matt Maddock, unsurprisingly, Josh Shriver, Rachel Smith. I think it's Rachel, not Rochelle. I'm not entirely sure. And that's it, folks. And boy, you've got quite some contrast here. If we look down this list here, if you're wondering about the color scheme, I decided to make it so that it goes from like green to red as it goes from 100% to 0, and then from red to black as it goes from 0 to -100. And the Democrats are all at -100%, every single one of them. There is no freedom of thought in that party at all, except for one courageous fella, Dylan Wegela, who voted no on that giant pile of garbage, Senate Bill 7. That was that bill that was originally a big spending bill that got converted into, I think that ended up becoming the vehicle for big spending and the pension tax cut and the EITC expansion and a whole big special interest spending deal. And Dylan Wegela was the one Democrat who voted no that required them to get one Republican to say yes. And that, of course, was Mike Mueller, who, along with all of his other bad votes, ended up as the lowest scoring Republican in the House at a nice big fat 0. We have Kathy Schmaltz, or as we call her, one and done, at 24%. And here again, folks, is also why I say I didn't want to have a ton of party votes to be scored, because Dylan Wegela, he voted wrong on everything else the Democrats did. But that one right vote on that one huge thing got him up to a solid contrast of just -62%. Emma says, Wegela is a Bernie type, I think. Interesting guy. Well, there you go. And what else do we have here of note? Anyway, so you can see it goes from this bright green at 100% and goes through the poopy browns that are around the mid-60s. And then for some reason, maybe my math was off or something, but Joe Bellino appropriately came in at a pink with 8%. So it actually suits him. If you look at the Senate photo, he's got that purple shirt on. So it kind of matches.
So you didn't pick that. It's like conditional formatting.
Yeah, it's what it scored it up with, and that was the color that came out. I don't know why my formula ended up skewing towards purple at that extremely low level, but that's where it went. You see, we got someone at John DeMoose at 17.
Too, yeah. Huh? Somebody else you just pointed out was at 8%, right? And they were red.
That's Bellino. No, I don't think so. Let me see in the house. No, I don't think we have
Yeah,
anybody
the
at
house.
8%. Let's see. Let me know if you see him.
Wasn't right there.
Where?
Mueller. Oh, that's a
No.
0.
Yeah, Mueller's at 0.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have to code. I hard coded 0 to just be red. But anyway, yeah, and I mean, on one hand, I'm just kind of being facetious, but I'll tell you what, though, I have noticed there are always a few lawmakers in any given legislature who have to wear those weird color shirts, the blues, I mean, the purples, the greens, the oranges. Gary Howell would always like to wear his bright Dracula red shirt. And all of them, without exception, were weirdos and or rhinos or both. Always the ones that wear the weird shirts. Like normal people know your shirt.
That's not even, that's like a muted color. That's not anything. I mean, he could, well, let's not get started on color analysis, but he could pull off a bolder color. If we're going to start
I've never known a lawmaker who likes purple and green and orange shirts that has not been a weirdo and or a rhino. I'm sticking with my statement.
Okay, fashionista.
Rick, I mean, there's not a lot to think about in men's fashion, but I mean, come on, folks. Suits are blue or gray, shirts are white or blue. If you need to spice it up, wear stripes or something, or we use a pocket square or a tie or something. No. If you're in a purple shirt, you're trying to make some kind of statement like, I don't need to be a normal looking person. And inevitably, they're not normal looking on the inside either. But anyway, so there you go. The purpose of all this, of course, is to actually go out and use these things, folks, particularly the Democrats. And if you click on any of these Democrats and their voting record, like, for example, my own state rep, sadly, is Regina Miller. And you can just take a look at all of those things that she's introduced and co-sponsored, copy and paste them, make it a flyer, hand it out, be like, this is what Reggie Miller has done in her first 100 days. And you don't have to use every single one if you don't want to, but you can use as many or all of them as you want. You've got, of course, the votes. If you've got some kind of rhino management problem in your district, we are happy to oblige on those as well. If you, let me pick one out here. Thomas Kuhn. He's got all these votes against the majority of his own party, so you can highlight all of those. Oh, including legalizing abortion. That's an interesting one. I'm sure you'll have fun explaining that to his voters, along with all the anti-gun rights bills as well. And Patty, you were telling me you were at an event recently where they were talking about this. Create a rare disease advisory council. You
well, there
it is.
Yeah.
About?
So they've the state senators and state reps have been having these coffee hours.
Yeah.
So like last week I talked about how we attended the one that Rosemary Bayer had in Plymouth. And so then I went to another one last week. I don't remember what day, but it was Jason Morgan, who is not my state rep, but he does have the western part of Plymouth Township, western part of Northville Township. And then, as you know, the maps that they cut into Ann Arbor with so many of them, they sliced in like diagonally just to mess up all the districts. Anyway, so he actually he introduced that bill. And so he was talking about it and he was pretty proud of it. And he was explaining it. And basically they want to have this council and to study like rare diseases, and because they feel like the healthcare industry isn't doing enough in diagnosing. And anyway, so, and he's like, it would be, and I said, well, who would be on this? I said, so you think government would do a better job? I asked him, and he said, well, yeah, he goes, well, it wouldn't be just government, it'd be, doctors and pharmaceutical, like people from pharmaceutical companies and,
those trustworthy people. Those,
exactly.
Those geniuses. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So there's more to it. Like, so that was,
there's absolutely no way there could be any kind of research into rare diseases in the private sector,
Well, yeah. And who knows? Yeah. What's, I don't know. It just makes me nervous. It's too much.
Strange. Jay asks, can you quickly explain the scoring again? Yeah, the scoring is the numbers I made up. And who decides if a vote is bad? I did. But soon, folks, and I'm telling you, it'll be this week for sure. You will all have the ability to make your very own scorecards as well, which you can share and post any which place that you want.
So I had a question there sandwiched in the middle where he said,
yeah, I was gonna get to that one too. No, it's not whether they voted with the majority of their party. Sometimes it's very typically it's commendable when Democrats vote against the majority of their own party, and Republicans as well. Most often when they do that, it's because they're voting no on some kind of corporate welfare scheme, which typically there's like kind of a bipartisan consensus within both parties, but there's exceptions. There's always a minority of party members who are opposed to the corporate subsidy deals. Although, as we've seen this year, somehow all these Democrats that were against corporate subsidy deals when Republicans were doing them are now totally in favor of them categorically. I remember when John Riley and Youssef Rabi, a Democrat from Ann Arbor, had a news conference a few years ago. One of the people who was there saying how evil all these corporate subsidy deals were and we should all stand principled in opposition to them was none other than Lori Pahutsky, who is now the majority speaker pro tem and who was in the chair when they passed the right to work repeal. But anyway, so yeah, sometimes voting against the majority of your own party can be a good thing. And of course, sometimes it is not, as in when they're going against the grain of their party to vote with the left on things. So yeah, and here Daniel Lawless says Kuhn claimed he voted to legalize abortion as part of his duty to uphold the Michigan Constitution as it was recently amended. Absolutely horrible vote. And Tim Kuhn, I'm hoping no relation, but I don't know, says Tom Kuhn posts all of his votes on Facebook. Well, yeah, and it's admirable when they post vote explanations as opposed to not posting vote explanations. But the reason they're posting is because they're trying to, give themselves cover. And it's up to you if you agree with their explanations or not. I mean, the obvious problem, Mr. Kuhn, Tom, is that, sometimes courts reverse, like with Roe versus Wade. And there's this amazing thing called separation of powers. And it's true that a court can block the enforcement of a law, and sometimes an activist court can even create a law where there was none. But that does not put it on the books. That's the way it'll still maybe play out in the courts, but they might reverse. It does not compel any a lawmaker has absolutely no legal obligation to go along with what a court says they should be doing. That's a basic separation of powers problem. So yeah, they're I remember, like, we talked about this a few weeks ago when Bill Schuette voted for the earned income tax credit expansion, which we talked about. It's not really a tax credit when you're actually giving people more money than they ever owed or paid in the first place. That's a redistribution scheme. Schuette says, oh, well, I'm going to just oppose all tax cuts. I'm going to support all tax cuts, no matter who it is. And our point at the time was, yeah, but guess what, Bill? The only tax cuts you're going to ever get to vote on with the Democrats in power is the ones that they allow you to vote on. So it's not going to be very equitable, is it? They're only going to be supporting tax cuts that benefit their political friends. So, you'll get a tax cut for the people that don't pay taxes, and you'll get a tax cut for a developer. We'll talk about that in a moment, because there was one of those going through the Senate this past week, and will be up in the House when they come back from their break. There'll be tax credits for who else? Blue Cross Blue Shield, DTE, Consumers Energy, Kellogg, maybe. When does working people ever get their tax cut? Oh, never, ever. So it's not exactly consistent policy you have there. But, they're free to make those arguments, and we are free to say whatever we choose to say about them. Barb asks, House Bill 4001 appears twice in the scorecard. Is the second one the one which counts? Well, we might combine those, actually. Sometimes I did intentionally have multiple votes because those bills changed. 4001, actually, maybe that was the one that originally was the pension tax cut, and then they threw a bunch of other garbage into it as well. Yeah, that's right. That is what that was. So in this case, by the way, I don't think, let me bring this back on the screen, but I don't think we'll be able to see. Let me see if it shows up. When you move the mouse cursor over the bill, yeah, it's not showing up on the screen because it's one of those things that doesn't get picked up by our screen sharing thing, but you'll get a little tooltip that says which roll call number vote it was and what the vote was for. So that first column there was the passage of the bill. The second one was the conference report. This was a bill where the House and the Senate passed 2 different versions. So there was one vote originally on passage, and then there was another vote. So for the most part, these votes are not all that different, but the actual recorded roll call votes in some cases were, most notably with respect to Dylan Wegela, who voted yes the first time, but then switched to vote no when it came back the second time. So again, once we have the ability for you all to make up your very own scorecards, you can choose which roll call votes you want to count. And that's up to you. And don't let any politician tell you you're scoring it wrong, because guess what, folks? They're the ones up for re-election, not you. So they can explain however they want why you're wrong and they're right. But, you know, as I say, you've got no elections to lose. They do. So you can tell them why these votes matter. Wasn't there something, Patty, you said I should explain to people tonight, and I forget what it was now. We were talking before the show, and it was
the voice vote or yay vote, and you said it's not recorded or something.
Oh, right. Yeah, let's tell you what. Let's remind me to come back to that when we talk about the Christina Caramo thing, because that's what that was in reference to. That was the other big story in the state this week. Was the whole Christina Caramo thing, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later on. Mark asks, do we have a scorecard for federal level, Congress and Senate? No, Mark, we do not, at least not yet, although I'm thinking about doing that. There was a few things we saw. There was a vote today, I believe. Maybe it was yesterday. Wait, today's Sunday. Maybe it was Friday. But there was a vote very recently in the U.S. House of Representatives on drastically cutting back the Department of Education. Let me see if I can find the tweet from Thomas Massey about that. But I went and looked, and we have 6 Republicans. Yeah, here we go. Let me pull this up on the screen here. Hold on one sec. This will be easier to show you. This is from Thomas Massey. And okay, yeah. On Friday, the House voted on whether to end the U.S. Department of Education's control over local elementary and secondary education. 161 Republicans voted yes. 60 Republicans voted no, as of course did all the Democrats. Here are their votes. A yes vote being to abolish that power at the Department of Education. Remember, folks, this is something that not too long ago was a platform item of the Republican Party, was in fact eliminating the Department of Education altogether at the federal level. And if I recall correctly, the only no vote among the Michigan Republican delegation was Bill Huizenga. So here we are. Huizenga voted no. James voted correctly. McLean, Molinar, Wahlberg. I thought we were 6. I thought we had 6 from Wahlberg.
Who's at the top?
Oh, Jack Bergman. Yeah, okay, so we got Bergman, McLean, Wahlberg, Molinar. Am I missing somebody here?
Yeah, you just skipped over James this time.
James. That's only 5.
Mm.
Wow. Our delegation got even smaller. Somehow I thought we had 6. Amazing. Anyway, there you go. So yeah, we should probably do something like that.
We're 8-5. Oh no, we're not, because Huizenga voted. He's okay.
Yeah, Huizenga's a Republican. At least that's what the letter
Somebody
to
said he's
says.
running for Senate. Is that true?
I don't know. It could be.
Could be.
Who is Huizenga?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even remember who told me.
So there you go, folks. But yeah, we're also keeping track with who did and did not co-sponsor the bill to audit the Federal Reserve. I believe Molinar and Wahlberg both did. Still no action from Bergman or James or McLean or Huizenga. Wait, that's 6 again. Okay, I'm gonna read this off. Bergman, Huizenga, James, McLean, Molinar, Walberg. We have 6. We have 6 congressmen. Okay, I'm not crazy. Phew, there you go. So
we have 6, but 1 voted no on that last count. That's what.
One voted poorly on that one important vote. Only 2 have co-sponsored the bill to audit the Fed. Only 1, I think, has voted to. Mark Kernel says John James is out for Senate again. We say out for Senate. I mean, he's not going to run for Senate. Yeah, he's tried twice. He's failed twice. I hope he's not trying a third time. He just gracefully got a congressional seat. Yeah, he's not going to run for U.S. Senate. Anyway, at
this point, it's all speculation. Who's running? I mean, except for Nikki.
Well, Slotkin's in
from that side. Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah, and yes, Nikki Snyder is running for U.S. Senate. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, there was some other important bill. Oh, it was a bill. What was it? It was a bill to defund the World Health Organization. And the only co-sponsor in Michigan was, to my surprise, John Molinar. So there you go. Mark Kernel says John James won by accident. Yeah, the accident was the district boundaries that got drawn for that seat. That's what the accident was. So anyway, yeah, we may do something like that at some point. We'll see. The issue is these congressional districts are frankly not really all that much in play. There's a lot more that people can just do, going after their local lawmakers, exposing their records, things that might really lead to changing their behavior. That's still something we should do for the congressional level, but we're not quite there yet. So
we have more of an impact, local.
Yep. What else has been going on lately? Oh, I know. I got a story for everybody. I auditioned for a school board the other day. That was interesting. I don't know if I should pull the video up. There is video of it. I don't think you can really see me that well in it. But so my local school board, the Milan area schools, they had a vacancy on their school board. One of their members resigned, apparently because she was getting so much grief from angry parents that she couldn't take it, and she had a struggle session and resigned. And so the board had to appoint somebody else, and somebody asked me to make a run at it. And we all knew from it, like in advance, it was a scripted affair. I mean, they already had in mind exactly who they were going to pick. But nonetheless, they had to pretend that it was they didn't pretend very well. They had to pretend it was a fair and open process. And so they just had the public send in they're like a 5-question questionnaire, and you said to throw your name out there. So this past Wednesday, they had 11 of us at the Milan High School, each answering, I think we answered 5 questions apiece. So it was about a 2-hour meeting. The woman they picked, hilariously, because they really wanted to make it seem like it was a completely fair process, to the point that they even had the people take the questions in a different order, because that's how fair and awesome and transparent it was. But the woman they ended up picking literally was reading the responses that she had written in advance from the questions she had gotten in advance. It was that pathetic. So,
but you didn't get the questions in advance, you're saying?
No, not at all. We weren't supposed to. None of us were supposed to have. But she was. I mean, she was very, very obvious.
What happened when we had a candidate forum down in Canton last November. Same thing on the Democratic side. They were reading their long, lengthy answer. Like, how do you know? How did you have such an answer prepared? We suspected they were given.
Yeah. So if you want to see it, folks, just go to YouTube and pull up the Milan area school board meeting. That's a dollar search for. It came right up. This is it right here is the video. I think it's somewhere in the middle. They had like a school board meeting, and then they had the Q&A. So they asked me 5 questions, and I brought a notepad and I brought some notes and things in case I need to draw from them and like have some stories. But all the questions were easy, at least in my opinion. They were easy for me. So I made a point to contrast with the woman who was reading her answers off, to deliberately come to the podium empty-handed and just off the cuff, just boom, 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 just answer the questions. Well, what do you do about the balance between CTE, career education, versus college admissions? Oh, yeah, let me tell you about the time when I was working in Congress, and here's how we passed this thing in the Every Student Succeeds Act, and how we gave local enterprises a stay in curriculum development, and we should do what Oakland Community College does, and we should be bringing in local businesses that need to hire people and make them stakeholders and blah. I mean, just easy stuff. But it was a pre-scripted event, and we had one school board member pick me, so that was something. We've got one serious.
You got one vote. One serious.
I got 1 vote out of 7. or no, out of six. So there it was. Brandon on YouTube says breaking the ice. There's folks, if you're watching on YouTube or actually I should go back. I always forget. I always forget to look at the
Breaking the
Rumble
ice.
chats
Oh
because
yeah,
they
he
don't
was
just
the
show
first
up.
comment. He was the
Yeah,
first.
he's the first comment on YouTube. So folks, if you don't know, we're multi-streaming on like YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, and even Twitter. So I don't think I'm seeing anybody's tweets, by the way, but I do try to make the point to answer other people's comments, and some of the comments I'm pulling up are from Facebook. But yeah, that reminds me, I got to look up at Rumble here. I know it's weird that I'm looking up at the ceiling, but that's because I got a monitor up there. Oh, Pam Bycraft asks, you have this posted where? I think we're going back to our scorecard. So I'll show you folks. If you don't know where to find it, if you just go to our homepage, rescuemichigan.com, there's that big scary Rottweiler, Captain Crunch. And there's the Operation Watchdog link. You can click on that. And then at the very top is view the scorecard. That'll take you right to it. And of course, if you're on our email list, we just sent you the link in our last couple of emails. So you can see all of those there. That is where to find them. Go to rescuemichigan.com, click on Operation Watchdog. You'll find the scorecard there. Emma says, I don't know if John James won by accident, but he did win by a hair. Was it really that close? I didn't think it was. It wasn't really.
Wasn't it less than 1%?
I don't know. I didn't realize.
I'm
look it up now.
I'm
because I thought that was like a
not attached to that answer. I don't know, but I swear it was not that much.
John James appears to win race by less. Wow, yeah, amazing. That's supposed to be a safe seat. Yeah, Emma says I thought 0.5%. I guess it was. There you go. Amazing. Anyway, what else we're gonna go over this week? Sometimes I have to look back at the title of the video, 100 Days of Democratic Extremism, and I have to double check. Did we cover all this stuff? Yes, we covered the right to work repeal. I mean, folks, all of the things Republicans, all the major things Republicans have done in the last 10 years, they're rolling back or repealing entirely.
Effortlessly too. It's just like
yeah. And on top of all that, just throwing out gun rights as well. But there's a bill to repeal the emergency manager law. There's a bill to repeal A to F. There's a bill to repeal right to work's already done.
National Popular Vote.
Oh, there's also brand new stuff too. Yeah, the National Popular Vote scheme, the transgenderism is a civil right bill. I wanted to show people the lock up your safety bill too, because people are asking me about that. Let me pull this one up. And this is, let me just get the bill number real quick here. People have been asking me what exactly that bill means. So let's look at Senate Bill 79. Oh, Jamie Green says A to F just went through. Yeah, I'm not so upset about that one, honestly. I am upset about the third grade reading law. A to F, I forget if it was when I was working for Gary Glenn or John Riley, but I wasn't a huge fan of that one because I don't see what it was going to really accomplish. I mean, it was a bill that DeVosses were trying to push through, essentially to give schools a scarlet letter. You're an F school. But I mean, did anybody even look at that data at all? I don't remember anyone doing that. So I don't know. I'm not saying it's not a bill I have strong feelings about is all. So this is the lock up your safety bill that just passed in the House and Senate. Any individual who stores or leaves a firearm unattended on premises under the individual's control and who knowingly or reasonably should know that a minor is or is likely to be present on the premises shall lock up the firearm or keep it locked or blah, blah, blah. And then there are penalties for all kinds of things. So if you've got children, this is going to be a real problem for you. Although, frankly, if you have children, you probably should be keeping your guns locked away anyhow. But nonetheless, and we can read through the whole thing in a moment here. Hold on, I just want to see there's some other chats coming through here. That one bill was not just for transgender people, it was also for gay and lesbian people. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, to the same effect. It was sexual orientation and gender identity. I think there's a huge distinction between civil rights based upon race and sex versus your sexuality. Sorry, folks, here are the facts. Transgender people are more likely to abuse drugs, more likely to commit suicide, and more likely to sue you. So what business would welcome that? The answer is none of them. And that's not a civil right for you to here's the whole thing. It's not that they want equality and they want to just be tolerated. No, they want to impose everything upon you. You know, my pronouns are this. My pronouns are Z, Zim, Zer. And if you don't call me that, then you're abusive. You're discriminatory. And now you can be sued over it. They don't want to just be left alone. They want to make demands of you. So no, I don't support that in any way, shape, or form. So there you go. Frankly, I don't want employers to be having to have any kind of preoccupation about their employees' sex. Period. That should be something that they don't talk about. And if they're, of course, which they always do, my pronouns are Z, Zim, Zer, and if you don't call me that, you're going to make trouble for me, and I'm going to say you're discriminating. I'm going to file a lawsuit, and and Metro Times is going to whip up a political mob to incite hatred against your business. You know, in the way that they did against Founders Brewing Company, for example, over race issues. That was bad enough as it was. It's all about lawsuits. That's the name of the game. So.
And they said, I read something of all the states that have now passed this. There's how many? 21, 25 that have passed the transgender as a civil right. We are the only one that didn't have the religious exemption.
Right. Yep. We now have the most regressive civil rights law in the country as that goes. Mm-hmm. And I do say regressive intentionally.
Right.
Anyway, so going back to this bill here, minor who obtains a firearm with the permission of a minor's parent or who uses or possesses the firearm for the purposes of hunting, or if the minor is in compliance with all applicable hunting. Wait, hold on. Okay, this is when it does not apply. These are all things that are not applicable. Individual violates this section by failing to store a firearm, and as a result, the minor obtains a firearm, discharges it, and inflicts serious impairment. So yeah, I mean, right. So it's additional penalties for what's already illegal. So, still bad, but
we're saying like this would have been a bill. Whereas now, you know, I mean, they're going after the Crumleys for what, manslaughter or something. Yeah. And that's kind of a stretch, but then had something like this been in place, they're saying then they could have for sure gone after the parents. So I think that's what that sounds like what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Which is atrocious because it's a complete perversion of the way that the law is supposed to work, that you are not liable for the crimes committed by somebody else. You can be guilty
of I guess it makes this. No, but if this is in your house and you have kids, I don't own guns, but don't people who have them usually keep them locked up in their house if they have kids, or even if not? I mean,
right. But here's the thing. They're charging the Crumbleys, the parents, with manslaughter.
Right. I mean, I'm saying if this law was already on the book.
That's atrocious. You're saying they killed them. You're holding someone for a crime of killing another person. And that's not what they did.
I know.
That's what the kid did.
Right. That's my point. But there was nothing else they could charge them with. So they're overshooting by going for this. But
and what they're really trying to do, of course, a big part of this is scapegoating the parents too, because they don't want to blame the school. They don't want to blame the school for failing to see the warning signs, for failing to intervene, they were well aware of the problems that this kid had, and procedures were ignored. And this is of course not just Oxford. I mean, this is what El Paso too, where law enforcement completely failed everybody. But don't blame law enforcement for standing down while a shooter killed 20, 30 some people over a period of 2 hours. If anybody is going to be held liable, it should be the school administrators who have a duty to protect the kids under their custody. But of course, that's not what they want to do. Right. They want to blame the parents. They want to blame the gun owners.
Okay, but parents have a right to protect their kids. Yeah. They have to protect their kids more than the school does.
Yeah, but they have their own compelling interest in doing that, whereas the schools don't, and they should. Schools need to. Rod Charles says the Oakland County prosecutor has made this political. Yes, she has. Mark Price says, I think you'd make a good school board member. Well, thank you, Mark. But
Adam 2024.
I don't see that happening, folks. I did it because somebody asked me to, and I'm like, sure, I have no problem doing that. But I remember I used to work in a lot of kitchens when I was, when I was in college. And then I once got a job as a waiter. And after I think 3 or 4 days, the owner came by and just immediately moved me over to the liquor store he owned next door. And they're like, he's no good for the front. And I mean, that's a thing, folks. It really is a thing. There's a certain personality type that are suitable as candidates. And it's not the same as being, campaign staff and strategic and all that kind of stuff. I'm not the candidate's the piece of flesh. The consultant's the one that has to get the guy elected. The candidate's the product.
Yeah.
The campaign consultant is the one that has to understand all the details of how election stuff works. Frankly, I'm more influential outside the House than I ever was when I worked in there anyway. And ask any Republican how powerful they think they are. So, I'd rather be the one that finds the guy who is the good fit for that school district. Someone that is an extremely attentive, someone who is a parent with a child in the district, for one thing, which I am not. If I had kids, they wouldn't be in that school. So
it's unreal how his parent, we couldn't get anyone to run. I mean, we finally did, but it was hard.
Yeah. It's a very small district too. It's only this district's only 1 high school, 1 middle school, and 2 elementary schools. So,
right.
That's fine.
Canton's humongous, and all these parents that were all standing up and against the mandates and all these things. And when it came time to find candidates, crickets, right? And we were posting in one of the pages, and someone's like, "Isn't this over now?" Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
it's over.
Brandon says, so I should burn my purple shirts.
It depends, Brandon. If it's the right shade of purple for you, don't listen to Adam.
There you go. Dwayne says the state failed on YouTube. Says the state failed that kid. The parents should not have had custody, according to the information I've learned of them. Possibly. Does not mean they should be charged with manslaughter, though. That's a completely separate question.
No, manslaughter is, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Anyway, what else do we got for tonight? It's been almost an hour already. Should we talk? We got to talk about the Christina stuff. We talked a little bit about Christina last week, although there was an email I meant to bring up.
Just got an award from the American Telugu Association. She was awarded for her contributions in politics.
The who?
American Telugu Association.
What is the American Telugu Association?
I believe it's Purple Rain. It's I think women, Indian, South Asian. I don't know.
Is Christina Caramo a South Asian Indian woman? I didn't think she was.
No, but that doesn't,
Okay. All right. Well, the Telugu people apparently are thrilled with Christina Caramo, but
that's all right that she won something nice.
But you guys may have heard this story. In fact, you probably did. So on Christina Caramo posted on the MIGOP Facebook page a picture of, it's like a wheelbarrow or something, or a box full of rings from the concentration camps of the Holocaust. And it was something to the effect of, this is why gun control is bad, something like that. She got yelled at by the Republican Jewish Coalition. And then the Michigan House passed a resolution to browbeat her this past Thursday. Let me see if I can find the story. I'm sure it's come up somewhere. Well, I hate to talk. I hate to bring up the media coverage because it's all. Here's the story. This is as good as any, I suppose. Michigan GOP chair not apologizing after comparing gun reform to the Holocaust. We're a different Republican Party. Doubled down amid backlash surrounding a tweet her party posted, which was obviously posted by her, in which they compared gun reform to the Holocaust. Now, a couple of things. If you're Aaron Zellman, folks, go ahead and do what she did. If you're a member of Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, yeah. And by the way, I mean, she's not wrong. Every single fascist dictatorship has banned the population from having guns. Gunnies get this. I know it. That does not mean it's smart to make that comparison when you have a million other talking points you can make. The Democrats are repealing right to work. The Democrats are passing all these anti-gun laws and on and on and on and on and on. I mean, this is like basic politics, folks. You don't ever want to have your name in the same sentence as the word Holocaust. You don't need to do it. You don't need to do it. It's enough to say the Democrats are ramming through all this radical gun control right now. This is bad. Tim Kuhn says Telugu is an Indian ethnic and linguistic group. Today I learned. Thank you. Brandon says Noah Arbit threw a fit about it. I'll bet he did. Yeah, because this is the thing that the Democrats play this game, and by the way, yeah, it would have been even worse had Christina apologized. She was at least wise at that point to do the I'm not going to be browbeaten thing. I had heard what they tried to do, and maybe if there's anyone in chat that knows in better detail than me, I heard what the Democrats did was they did a call of the House, which means that lawmakers are not allowed to leave the House floor, and tried to force a roll call vote on the resolution, which they didn't do. So, which is unfortunate because there's no roll call vote now. And this is what you were asking me to explain earlier. When bills come up for a vote, the bills have to have what's called a roll call, and that's a recorded roll call vote. Every single member has to say yes or no, or perhaps even just abstain. But when you see resolutions like these, and I think, where is it here? One of these is the resolution. They have so many of these. Oh, this one, I want to talk about this one briefly. A resolution to memorialize the federal government to stand with the Burmese people against the military coup in Burma. And you see here, this one was just sent. Okay, this one hasn't had a vote, but it was sent to the Committee on Government Operations. So for those who don't know, and I assure you none of these lawmakers know, Burma's been called Myanmar for about the last 30 years now. It's had a bit of a name change. The only people that still call it Burma are the CIA. And it's them back in the military coup in Burma. Well, it's not the military coup, it's the National Endowment for Democracy coup in Myanmar. It's all this is all part of the slap China stuff. Anyway, these people, if not for maybe a policy memo they got earlier this week, they would probably not even know what continent Burma is on. But this is how resolutions typically go.
Wasn't that a Seinfeld thing too? Burma, Myanmar with Peterman.
I don't know. I don't remember. I mean, it's not that I never watched Seinfeld. I've seen a few of them, but I don't remember them very well. But yeah, was there something about that on Seinfeld?
I think so.
Yeah. Anyway, so what you typically see with these resolutions is things like this, where there's no roll call vote. This is what they call a voice vote. But the voice vote's not a voice vote. It's not like you've got all these people voting aye and all these people voting nay. It's you have the clerk of the House go like this. He taps his pen, and they say the motion's adopted. That's all it is. So all of these resolutions, if there's no roll call vote, then it's really just it passes the pleasure of the speaker. And that's the way it is for all these votes. So when they say voice vote, there's no voice. So in this case, you've got a resolution to condemn divisive rhetoric that invokes inappropriate, repugnant Holocaust comparisons as an ideological political ploy meant to polarize the populace. Oh, and that's another thing about these resolutions too.
Oh, well, Will Meredith just posted, Attorney General Nessel compares Trump to Hitler at state. Okay.
Yeah. How totally. I mean, it's typical stuff, folks. The rules only apply to Republicans. They don't apply to Democrats. They can do whatever they want. And they get away with it because the media doesn't give a flying rat's ass whenever they do stuff like this. So, yep, there's the link. Michigan Attorney General compares Trump to Hitler. Oh, yeah. The Democrats have all done that. They've all been comparing Trump to Hitler for the last 20 years. But anyway, as I was saying about this resolution, an ideological political ploy meant to polarize the populace. He writes this stuff. The answer is there's a group called the Research Service in Lansing, and all of the bills are written by
Matt Kolazar is listed there as a
Yeah. All of these bills are not like the bills are written by attorneys at the Legislative Services Bureau. But the research division who writes the resolutions is separate, and the resolutions are all just embarrassing. I haven't even read it. We can pull it up. Reprehensible Holocaust comparisons and analogies have become all too commonplace as a means of furthering political agendas and thus dividing Americans. Do they actually name Christina in this? I bet they don't. Yeah, I don't see her name in there. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, if you think next year they're going to, they're going to hold Democrats accountable for their endless comparisons of Trump to Hitler and Putin is Hitler. And anybody I don't like is Hitler. I don't think that's going to happen. Jamie says they took it out, but then was sure to tell everybody that they took it out.
Took what out? They took out Karamo's name. Is that what she means by it?
Oh yeah. That must mean what she meant. They took it out of the text of the resolution. Well, whoop-de-doo. I mean, here's the bottom line, folks. Like I say, Christina, it's all well and good that she didn't back down when she was being browbeaten, but it was a stupid thing to have done in the first place. It was a thing that was not necessary to do. It was the thing. You have to remember, Democrats aren't stupid. When they're doing this stuff, it's because they know that it's going to have an impact. It's a news hit. It's a quick boom. Look at these Republicans. Why in the world is Christina going on about this stuff anyway? That's not what a state chair is supposed to be doing in the first place. So all she did was make it harder for the GOP. All she did was damage the brand. I mean, there's no one going, oh my God, the Republican Party is now talking about how gun rights are what prevents genocides. I'm going to sign me up for the Republican Party then. No, none of that happens. It doesn't do any good whatsoever. It's just another bad lack of judgment. This was the other email. I meant to show you guys this last week, and I forget why if it didn't come up. Where is it here? Hold on. Don't tell me I can't find it again. I always have this galaxy of browser windows open. I have trouble finding the thing I'm looking for. Here it is.
Someone that used to keep like 120 windows open at the same time. But
who?
I used to work with somebody who, I'm exaggerating, maybe it's not 120, but there's so many windows open of Excel. I'm like, how are you finding? But you could tell like his brain was the same way.
Yeah. Well, you try to close things whenever when you can, but I don't know. I know a guy who has a traumatic brain injury, and part of it is like, yeah, he always has 1,000 windows open, but it just makes his computer almost unusable. It's really unfortunate. Anyway, so this is an email she sent out about a week and a half ago. Dear precinct delegates, our MI GOP team is heading into our 4th week of transitioning, and I just wanted to share a progress update with you. Our team is bringing much needed innovation and infrastructure changes to the GOP to ensure we are victorious in 2024. One of the things we hear frequently is regarding the building being used. Many businesses and nonprofits are moving towards a working model whereby volunteers and employees work remotely while having access to satellite locations. Blah, blah, blah. We're going to have satellite locations. Also, by the way, we've been locked out of the office. We do not have control over the building. We would have to pay $12,000 a month. This is all Ron Weiser. Ron Weiser had this transferred to a trust. It's been 21 days since we literally became the chair and co-chair, and yet they have still withheld this. And I mean, this is inside baseball. This is stuff that should not be discussed on this podcast because we shouldn't have an email talking about all these things. She sent this out to all the precinct delegates, or at least, I guess, the precinct delegates that got it, because you didn't see this one, Patty, right? You didn't get this, even though...
No, I'm not getting every email. I don't know why.
You're a state delegate. You were a state delegate. So,
yeah, not just a precinct delegate. So state delegate. Yeah. I mean, I don't always get the precinct delegate ones because I don't put my email address on my affidavit.
When you run for party office, like, I don't know, state chair, they give you the list of all the state delegates.
When we had 11 candidates for state chair, I was only getting texts from DePerno.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That got the right contact info somehow, because I think other people were sending texts.
Yeah.
I don't know to whom or how, but
yeah. Anyway, this whole email is inside baseball, and it's like stuff you don't want to be blabbing about to the whole planet. Like, oh my God, we don't have our office anymore. Oh, we're being denied our list and blah, blah, blah. Like, if you have to say something publicly, say it in a lawsuit, not just like sending out emails. By the way, in case you didn't know, here's why we don't have anything right now. Mark says the last GOP former leadership is hoping that Christie fails. Well, I mean, I think they have the same position I do, Mark. I think we hope she doesn't fail, but it's just to know what she's doing. And I hate to point that out, but this is basic stuff. This isn't like, oh, I'm not being able to fundraise because I've been frozen out by the DeVosses and the HRCC. This is, I'm making basic elementary problems because I don't know the first thing about messaging. So yeah, this is, it's like, I think I said last week, if you see someone doing brain surgery on a street corner, you hope they succeed. You don't want the patient to die, but it's not going to work. And by the way, if you're a doctor, you got to go, hey, someone call an ambulance because there's going to be a dead body here in a few minutes. You just got to kind of call it as you see it. So, yeah. So anyway,
yeah.
It is what it is, folks. There says the former methods and strategy of MIGOP wasn't working. Well, it certainly hadn't, but there's a lot of reasons why there was a lot of mistakes made. And Asuka says, then why don't you help her? Why isn't every Republican helping? No matter who is the chair, you're talented, so why don't you help? Well, I think we're helping with our scorecard. I think we're helping with training people. I mean, here's the thing. I am the executive director of my county GOP, and what we're doing, all that we can to do, is to professionalize that organization. And it doesn't help when she constantly keeps damaging our brand. I don't know. I would, if she asked me to help her, maybe I would. But last time I heard, she was telling people that I'm part of the problem. So there you go. If she wants to come to me and
you know what,
ask
they
for my
have,
help, fine.
right? They have a state committee.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of people that can help her. Yeah. Like you said, you're involved in your county party. I'm involved in my county party. I'm focusing on local elections. So state party,
why doesn't she ask Scott Greenlee for help? why doesn't she ask?
Mark says, but no one with skill set stepped up. Yeah. Greenlee stepped up, but he didn't win.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. A lot of the Michigan GOP doesn't like the fact that she is a strong Black woman. Well, that's not what my problem is with her. My problem is she didn't have the background to be a state chair. I didn't run for state chair, folks. I didn't run for state chair. You know why? Because I'm not qualified. And I know I'm not qualified. Christina should have known she wasn't qualified, but she didn't.
Yeah, to say that a lot of the GOP doesn't, that's not a good statement to make, Mark.
Yeah. Paula says Greenlee is willing to help her. Okay, well then, hope he does. I hope he does.
He might be. We don't, or he might step up. We don't know. But like I said, it's not. We're both county level people.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the long run, this is going to be good for the GOP because, I mean, frankly, yes, you were right. Even before Christina, there was all kinds of institutional problems with the state party. Namely, it was a welfare office for lazy consultants that wasted a ton of donors' money, and now they're starting to realize that it was an entity that was important and had to be cared for. So what you're going to have in the next 2 years is all of these county organizations stepping up, building up their own fundraising operations. And then B, when someday a professional does take back over the state party again, it's going to be a differently run party to prevent this kind of scenario from occurring again. So I think in the long run, it's going to be a good thing. But for the time being, these are some growing pains.
And like I keep saying, maybe her purpose is something different, maybe a state chair. So let's just see what happens. But
yeah, I agree.
She's strong. She is strong, and that's a good thing. And she does speak her mind. She didn't back down, like you said, from that statement. So
yeah. Oh, I was going to say maybe we should start wrapping up the show, but I realized there's at least two things I didn't even talk about yet. Which we do first, DeSantis or Senate Bill 129? If anyone knows what those are, let's do Senate Bill 129. We'll do some legislative stuff, and then we'll close with talking about DeSantis. So this passed the Senate this past week, and it is bad. It's a bill to expand a brownfield subsidy deal. This is on a scorecard, by the way, for the state Senate. Bill to expand the scope of a brownfield subsidy deal to also now cover subsidized housing, which just passed the Senate on a vote of 25-15. Here's what this is all about. This is expanding on something that was already a bad thing. By the way, we're going to be hammering the legislature about this in the days and weeks to come too. This is a scheme that Republicans tend to fall for easily. Well, they don't tend to fall for. They take it all the time because there's a lot of developers who are Republican financiers, let's say. Carolyn Land. The brownfield development deal is to say, okay, we have properties that are blighted because of pollution. Maybe it used to be a cleaners there, and now the soil is polluted, and it has to be a cleanup if you're going to build on it. So developers don't want to develop the land. So let's create this tax abatement, a tax subsidy, essentially. And the developers will now be able to come in. They'll develop these properties, and then now we'll start to collect taxes where we didn't used to be able to collect any taxes. So isn't that all wonderful, everybody? This is a great thing for everybody. And it sounds good until you realize there's this thing called the broken window fallacy, which is, what if there was no special interest deal for these developers? What are they going to do instead? Well, they're not going to just sit on their hands and do nothing whatsoever. No, they're going to develop something else that doesn't need a taxpayer subsidy. And they're still going to pay more taxes even, because they're not getting the tax credits that they get in the first place. But these deals are always common. There was a big Dan Gilbert deal a couple of years ago. This one, I think, originally went through the brownfield deal in, I want to say like 2015, 2016, something like that. Well, now the Democrats have a new version of it. They're going to take all the things it was, and now not only just environmentally blighted properties, but now they're going to give these tax credits to, guess what? Subsidized housing. Well, here's the thing. Developers love subsidized housing because guess what? It's a guaranteed, it's guaranteed spigot of money. It's not like that low-income housing that we have to deal with tenants, people that don't pay rent sometimes, get evicted sometimes, cause property damage sometimes. No, it's a guaranteed rent check from the government. So they all love it. And the developers are all about these subsidized housing deals. Now they get tax credits for it. And guess where they're going to be building these things, folks? Because, you're a developer. Why would you want to build your guaranteed government paycheck housing in Detroit? Why would you want to build it there? You got graffiti problems, crime problems? No, build it in a suburb. Build it in a nice neighborhood. So you're going to have subsidized apartments being built in nice suburban Republican places. And who's voting for it? Republicans, because they want that developer money. So there was the vote on that in the Senate just the other day, and not a ton of Republicans voted for it, to their credit, but enough did. It was going to pass anyway, but enough did. We can see how they voted at good old rescuemichigan.com. You click on the Operation Watchdog, click on the scorecard, and there's the bill SB 129. And you got votes from all the Democrats, of course. Our old friend Joe Babe, of course. John Damoose. And Roger Victory. Michael Weber. Someone asked earlier in the chat. Let me scroll up. So I didn't answer this question at the time. But somebody was asking me earlier, what the heck happened to Roger Victory? What in the world happened to Roger Victory? Roger Victory's always been a rhino, Rick. He's always been one of the worst. He's atrocious. His whole record's been terrible. He's always like the least Republican in the bunch, which is all the more shameful because he's in one of the safest Republican seats.
Wow, minus 13.
So, yeah, he actually went to the negative territory. Although that's because he missed a bunch of votes too. But there you go.
Asuka, I don't know what you mean. Can't county commissions get involved in what? Can you elaborate on your question, please?
Yeah. Oh, okay. He didn't know anything about him. Yeah, Roger Victory's just another rhino in the Grand Rapids area.
Back YouTube chat and Rumble, a reminder from Mark.
Rumble, thank you. I don't see much new in
YouTube actually comes right in to this, our comments.
Yeah,
Mark.
I do see YouTube and Rumble. I do see YouTube and Facebook in chat. I don't I have to make a point to look up to check out Rumble. But
So
I
that
don't see any
on
new
the Rumble end or
questions.
StreamYard? They don't hook up with Rumble chat, so we can't
StreamYard doesn't connect to Rumble. No, Rumble is stupid. They don't give you like a fixed. There's a stream link that it has to connect to, and it gives you a different one for every single stream you do.
Oh, I see.
So I don't know why it does that. It's very tedious and annoying. And Rumble just has all kinds of weird little glitchy things that I hope they would have worked out by now. But
Gotcha.
what can you do? Anyway, so I think that's about all we got for this week, folks, except the other big story was DeSantis' campaign kind of imploding. DeSantis,
I just thought of something, though. Do we want to see
What's
Fetterman 2.0?
Fetterman 2.0. What is Fetterman 2.0?
Have you seen what he looks like now? What he looks like now?
Fetterman 2.0. Is this something I can Google and find, or what is it?
You go to Twitter. There's side-by-side pictures.
Twitter.
So
Fetterman
Suka's asking, can
2.0.
county commissions get involved in that Brownsfield stuff? Well, if it's a state law, I don't know. Can county commissions stop a state law?
No, county commissions can't stop a state law. I mean, we can pull up the bill if you want. But yeah, I mean, you qualify for a tax subsidy, and that's all there is to it. Mark says we need to set 3 monitors in front of you, Adam. I have 3 monitors in front of me. I've got one in front of me right here. I got one to my side over here, and I've got one above me over here. I used to have them arranged 1, 2, 3, and I kind of like them better this way, although I know it looks weird when I look up. So, but yeah, that's the way.
Mark
So,
also says Warren is still fighting that in South Warren. It's the subsidized housing, I guess.
oh,
But you know,
yeah.
but you know what else is happening in
Is this
Warren?
what you mean, Patty? Is this what we're looking for? A photo of these 2 completely different people?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. He's a very different looking guy now, that's for sure. Although I'm pretty sure that's not him on the right. Pretty sure.
It's not him.
No, it's not him. Are they really saying that's him?
Yes. There's a picture of him with the wife.
Really?
To the left right now, see the shadow over his shoulder? That's his wife. That's cropped out. Like, look at the ears. They're pinned back. Like, his face is like long.
Yeah.
The ears. Thanks, Richard. Yeah.
I don't know. Amazing.
I've never seen him smile like that.
We'll have to compare the videos.
I don't know if he's smoking. Yeah. So anyway, back to DeSantis.
Yeah, so we talked, I did a video in the middle of last week's, about a week and a half ago now, talking about his answer to Ukraine and how great it was. And of course, he got beat up by the neocons. Oh my God, DeSantis. And DeSantis immediately walked it back. He had this whole struggle session. Yeah, and Putin's a war criminal, which he picked a strange time to call Putin a war criminal, right as the International Criminal Court called Putin a war criminal. The International Criminal Court, who the U.S. has said countless times is an illegitimate court. Countless times they've said that, but now, because they're attacking Vladimir Putin for the war crime they're charging him with is, get this, taking children who are being bombed in the Donbass out of the Donbass, out of a war zone where Ukraine's been bombing children's hospitals for the past 7 years. The crime of Russia is to get them away from the mortar shells. Amazing. So DeSantis now is apparently on Team Neocon again, which is,
he's kind of
disconcerted. I mean, here's the problem. I mean, maybe he's, maybe it's something that's going to get sorted out as the campaign goes on. But here's the problem I see with all this. DeSantis is trying to figure out where to get voters from, and there are a lot of Trump voters who are going to stick with Trump come hell or high water, no matter what.
Did you see the polling depending on income?
No, or maybe I have. I don't know.
If you make over 50,000, I think Trump and DeSantis are tied at 37% or something, but under 55 don't. I think that's the number, on 50 or 55. I'm not sure, and Trump leads by like double digits. Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem. DeSantis he's not going to get the neocon votes unless he becomes a full neocon,
right?
And that leaves him with.
Well, that's why he said that original statement in the first place, was he was trying to be Trumpy and basically say, it's none of our business. And that pissed everybody off. That was fun
because he wants the neocon money. He wants the neocon money, but he wants our voters, and you're not going to get both of those things. So he's in between a rock and a hard place here.
Yeah.
I mean, the only voters he's going to be able to capture are people like me, people who are like, well, I like Trump, but DeSantis is like more capable.
All that stuff he did with Disney, that all never went through anyway. All that stance he took with Disney, they didn't revoke any of those tax breaks or any of that stuff. There's articles on about that now too. That never actually happened.
I don't see what path DeSantis has. The only path that I thought
because I really liked him. You know what I mean? So
well, the path he had was, I'm like Trump, but I get it done. But he's having more and more trouble, A, showing he can get it done, and B, showing that he's really like Trump.
Yeah. So, and this is his first time in the, people were always wondering what his foreign policy was going to be, right? Because he didn't really have much.
Yeah.
But I think when
Brandon on
he was in
YouTube
the
says the United
House,
States isn't under the jurisdiction of the ICC. Yeah, neither is Russia. That's the other thing. And I don't think Ukraine is even under the jurisdiction of the ICC. So, I mean, it's a stupid thing to say. And it was a stupid stunt by the ICC too. I mean, all it's done is just shown the world that the ICC is just another arm of the West. So, lovely. So, anyway, I guess it is what it is. We'll see how things shake out in the primary for the presidency, but who knows? DeSantis might not even file. So, we'll see. Of course, the other thing that happened was Trump wasn't indicted, much less perp walked. So maybe there's just a whole stunt that he pulled. I don't know. Whatever. It is what it is. Yeah, Asuka has a link to
Trump's rally in Waco, it looks like.
Or it might, yeah, it could be, or maybe it's a podcast. I don't know. I don't want to open links in the middle of a stream, but if you guys haven't seen, someone made the point about that rally the other day. Only Trump can just go show up at a place and to a whole crowd of people just speak extemporaneously for 2 hours. And it's amazing. It's true. He doesn't have to have handlers the way that everybody else seems to have. Mark says Tulsi Gabbard has been right about Ukraine. It's Russia's version of our Korean War. I'm not sure I follow that analogy, but I do like Tulsi for whatever that's worth. Yeah. So, all right, folks, that's it for us for this week.
Says Fetterman is on New York Times most stylish.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So is Adam, and because he doesn't like purple shirts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't take it from me, folks. All right, so we get a break from the state legislature. Look for more stuff from us on national issues this week, but also we are going to definitely be sticking it to people for all their bad votes. This is, as I said in today's email, a target-rich. Side story about that. I was once at an organization that was a very, very weird political startup run by this very, very young guy who somehow talked a guy into giving him $1 million to start an organization. And it didn't last very long. But one of the requirements was that we all had to wear orange and green because they were different looking. So we were going to go to we went to CPAC. We all had to wear orange and green, either orange suit shirts and green ties or vice versa. And so I showed up with like the lightest shade orange that I could possibly, it was more like a beige. And the guy's like, that's not orange enough. You got to get an orange shirt. I'm going to go buy you an orange shirt. I wasn't with them for very long. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. So anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah. Beat up some rhinos, folks, and please beat up some Democrats too. We gotta talk more
pay
about
attention,
this
you
stuff,
guys. If they have these coffee hours and stuff, like watch for them and go. Like the ones I went to, both of them were Democrats, but I went and it was interesting to see the comparison between Rosemary Bayer and Jason Morgan. I actually like Jason Morgan. He's a nice kid. I obviously don't agree with his politics, but it was a nice event,
Yeah. Well, if there's anything politicians are good at, it's being nice, likable people. But you gotta show people. Look, of course they are. I think they get elected. But regardless,
she was not nice and likable. She told one of the
guys.
Well,
they aren't always.
One of our guys in the audience.
They're not always, but in general, like, people get elected because they're likable. Sorry.
She told one of our, you can leave if you want. She told one of the guys in the audience.
After she got elected?
Yeah, at the coffee hour.
Yeah, well, after she got elected, right. But anyway, they can be nice when they want to be. But anyway, folks, my point is, you got to tell voters what these people are actually doing. And this Operation Watchdog tool gives you what you need to do that, because nobody looks good when their voting records end up looking like this, where this is, anybody, Rod Charles says Rosemary Bayer is not likable. Well, she flipped a seat. So there's that.
She did?
Yeah, that was a seat that used to be a Republican seat. It was, whose was it again? The Jim Marlowe seat? No, I don't remember. Oh, well. Anyway, nobody looks good when you just throw the record of bills that they've sponsored in front of them.
And at her coffee hour, somebody in the audience said one of our most bipartisan senators about her.
They called her that, Rosemary Bayer.
Yeah. Someone in the audience said, "We know you're one of our most bipartisans."
Well, yeah, but that's what the Democrat operatives are doing. I mean, they have people go to all their coffee hours to do stuff like that. Yeah. So what? You know, at the end of the day, you print out the flyer, you say, "Here's what they did."
Yeah.
Go to legislature.mi.gov. You can see this all for yourself. It's all on record. Every last bit of it. I can prove it to you. And you know, that's the way this game works, folks. The more people hear about politicians, the more they know about politicians, the less they like them. And if you can expose to voters all the stuff the Democrats have been doing in the last 100 days, then they're in for a tough re-election. That's for sure. Mark asks, how has Angela Regas been doing? She got a 90%. She voted wrong on the EITC, but she voted right on the others. She's in a safe Republican seat. So there you go. Mark says, interesting you mentioned coffee hours. I am going to my Wayne County Commissioner's coffee hour tomorrow morning.
Yeah, especially that you guys, pay attention to them too, those people. So Rod Charles said, split vote gave her the seat. Third party took votes away from Jim Tedder. She wasn't running against Jim Tedder this time.
No, she ran against, well, that's right. Now I remember. Yeah, it was in the primary. Yeah, it was there's a Republican primary between Jim Tedder and who was the other guy? Rod will know the answer. He was
the primary. The Republican side, was Jason Rines and Brian Williams.
No, 2 years before. No, 2 years before that. 2 years before, or even 4.
Okay.
Her first term. Yeah, her first term.
Okay.
It was Tedder versus, I can't believe I don't remember the guy's name because I'm from that very same area. Well, I worked for John Riley, who's in that very same area. But anyway, Tedder was the better of the two, but he lost in the primary. And I don't know that the third party candidate, if there was one, had any real bearing on that. But the Republican nominee was the more moderate one. It was an ugly primary. Maybe that's what he means by it. It was an ugly Republican primary.
Yeah.
Which, so be it.
Anyway.
But yeah, that should have been Jim Tedder's seat, but he didn't even make it through the primary. So there you go. All right, folks, that's us for tonight. See you next Sunday or Tuesday if you're in Operation Watchdog. And until then, thanks for all you guys do for liberty. Have a good night.